Thank you, Tiffany. In our next talk, we're going to hear from Topeka's City Manager about what Topeka is doing to use data to demonstrate trustworthiness. So please allow me to introduce Jim Colson.
Thank you. Which way is forward? Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I want to start with a couple of interesting, change the word to astounding statistics. During the Reagan era, 90% of the members of Congress were measured to be within 10% of the middle. Today, 0% of Congress is measured to be within 10% of the middle. During that same time, trust in government has fallen from a statistically accepted value of 77% during the Reagan era to 19% today. We are living in a time of disconnectedness and divide, politically, economically, and racially. When people are disconnected, they are scared. And when they're scared, they're angry. And when they're angry, they don't trust. This is a very important point that we all need to understand, especially those of us in municipal government. The people they trust the least are us. Historically, that was something that was accepted at the federal and the state level, but historically, municipal government has always had a very close relationship with those who are governed, but that is changing, and that's changing very quickly. Because this lack of trust, people are becoming further disconnected and further divided, and they're pushing out to the further edges of the extreme. What does that mean? We've lost the middle. What's the value of the middle? The middle is where we solve problems. The middle is where we come together and talk to each other and come up with solutions that are a compromise between one position and the other. And if you get too far out to the edges, you can't accomplish that. There's really only one true practical way to get beyond this, and that's transparency. Transparency is a very simple word to say. It is a tremendously overused word, and it's usually a word that is used by people who are saying you're not being transparent, and they bang you over the head while they're doing that. It's also a very difficult concept to truly define as to what is transparency, and then even more difficult, it's extremely challenging to implement. Those who are going to govern need to be transparent to those who are governed. At the core of my intellectual being, I believe three things, and I believe it very strongly. Number one, government only exists to serve the governed. If you are not serving your constituents, you don't deserve to govern. There's no more 800-pound gorillas. We need to become high-performance, customer service-oriented agencies. Secondly, transparency starts at the top. At the executive level, there needs to be a total commitment to becoming open about what you do. You need to make sure that the adequate resources are available, and you need to make sure that the policies that are in place are protected to ensure and promote openness. And thirdly, and this is the one that I believe most strongly, it is not imperative upon the governed to be able to find out what you're doing. It is imperative that we are pushing information out there in such a way that is easy to understand and easy to access. So, why is this so hard to accomplish? Like the great philosopher Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the mouth. If I could look at the first video. I'm hopeful now. It's going to play. I'm still hopeful. All right, I think I'm about to give up on this. I have a video embedded into my PowerPoint, and it's really good. So for those of you who know what this is a clip from the show Parks and Recreation. And this is about public meetings. And if you've ever been in a situation where you've been in public meetings, it's amazing how angry people are and how off point they often are and how difficult it is to really push things forward that are very important to the community, but because people are so angry and they're so not trusting, they're not able to hear anything that you're saying. So let me make a point out of this. Amy Poehler, who's the star of this show, and by the way, I've never watched it, I just was shown the clip on YouTube. Amy Poehler starts out by saying, "When I hear people yelling, I hear them caring loudly." And it starts to sound like a joke unless you think about it. It's precisely correct. When people are disconnected and they're scared and they're angry and they're non-trusting, they complain and they complain loudly. We can't make the mistake of not listening to them. In reality, political change can only come through two sources. The first source is negative criticism. The second source is through inspirational leadership. I think that what we're seeing more often than not is the negative criticism that occurs because of people being angry. I think inspirational leaders are far and wide apart, and it's hard for them to get to that point where they can lead because there is such a distrust. I think it's absolutely apparent that the only true solution is radical transparency. There are a lot of government breaches, federal, state, local. Very few things truly challenge people as much as being violated by those who they trust. And when you see people who have violated the public trust, it's very difficult to earn it back. We need to continually operate on a daily basis in an open fashion, and we need to address four critical things. Number one is we need to address inefficiencies. We need to be able to show to people that we're not inefficient, that we need to be able to show the tie between the resources that we allocate and the results that we achieve from a strategic perspective. Secondly, we need to demonstrate that we're not ineffective. We need to be able to show people that government does matter, that government programs do matter. At the local, state, or federal level, we need to be able to demonstrate that the investments that are being made with your tax dollars, with their tax dollars, are able to be implemented and allocated in such a way that truly can make a difference in people's lives. People don't think government matters. That's why they're not involved. The third thing is we need to get away from the concept of all government officials are self-serving. They're doing things that are in their own best interest. And some of the challenge points that we're going to have to deal with in the next 5 to 10 years probably are government benefits and government retirement programs. They don't exist in most other places, and people are taking a look at that. And we have to make sure that we're not viewed as just in this because we want to. You think of the person who went in to do good and ended up doing very well. We've got to be very careful that we don't fall into that category. The last thing that we need to prove to people is that we're not willing to live at a level of unacceptable risk that they would not be willing to take on their own. Now, this is a tough situation because governments can make strategic investments that have tremendous good, but we have to be smart about it. We've also made tremendous investments that prove to be very poor investments. So we need to be able to communicate with people in such a way that they understand what we're doing, they understand how we're allocating the resources, and that they understand that we're practicing good organizational principles that allow us to achieve success in a manner that they would support. Our operational plan needs to be focused on opening every window into our day-to-day operations and activities so individuals can see what we do, they can see why we're doing it, and they can see how much money we're spending in doing this. We need to continue to ensure that information is easily accessible and it is understandable. From a Topeka perspective, we've done a couple of things so far. We're in a 3-phase plan. Right now, we've opened up our budget portal so you can really see where the money's spent all the way through the organization. From our budgeting process to how the money's being allocated and expended, you can go in and you can see it on a regular basis. In addition to that, we have an open data portal that provides a lot of maps and graphs and charts and and data sets that people are allowed to interact with so that they can understand how we're operating. But we're really only now starting to get to the cool part. We're working on a project portal that shows what we're going to do and how we're going to spend it. We're working on other portals that are allowing people to see how can you interact with the city from a planning perspective, from a development perspective, from an organizational governance perspective, so that everybody can get in and see very closely. There are a lot of legal and there are a lot of personnel challenges that are associated with doing this. I think the key is we got to continue to push this to the point where people are very uncomfortable. Yes, we're respectful of personnel decisions. Yes, we're respectful of things that need to be exempted from a legal perspective. But we have to have the willingness to continue to push this further, because I truly believe that this is going to be the battle between governance and governed in the years coming forward. Thank you very much.